Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Welcome to the circus, round 2. We think today is going to be a short chapter because it is recall and recap, and there's repeat moves from the last time we were at this circus.
Right. I feel it's kind of like updating us, right? You know, it's like, welcome back to a familiar place. Oh, there's Uncle Bob. There's Aunt Sue. Oh, yeah, she's doing well. The cancer faded, you know, that's how they're doing. They got married, you know. I feel like there's a lot of like that sort of like life updates as we walk through the circus to be like, that's how these people are doing. Remember them a year ago? When Nynaeve and Egwene were hanging out with them?
Yeah, so it's very, like, double dipping on the recap. So we suspect that there's not a lot here. We didn't, either of us, see a lot in our notes, so.
Mm-hmm. There's certainly one or two things that I want to talk about, but it's not a long list.
And then, of course, we'll be doing our little bit of the cleansing chapter with Elza. Her first POV. She has a couple POVs, and this will be her first, and that will be fun.
And that's a pretty short, 6-7 paragraph little POV?
Yeah, it's like 2 pages, 2 facing pages, basically. And yeah, I think we'll probably put that at the end.
Yeah.
I don't see any real point in putting it at the beginning. I think we'll save that as a treat for getting through the circus.
Make it through the circus, and you get to hear us. Well, I think we'll be interested to talk about all the circles they form and who forms up where to go off and fight.
Yeah, I think it might take us as long to talk through that section as it does to do the circus. So with that, let's dig into it.
Chapter 2, 2 captains with a Shreddit as our chapter icon. What some of you may know as an elephant.
You are wrong. They are actually called Shreddits. And the little ones are called subreddits.
But don't.
Funnier in text. Thank you, Lillian and Marco.
I feel like that's the same joke as when you have a dog and their puppies and you're like, oh, a dog and his subwoofers.
Yeah. It's literally just that
joke. Okay, so that's the level of humor we're going for today at Valan Luca's grand traveling show and magnificent display of marvels and wonders.
Oh my god, I love your Circus Barker voice.
Shall I read this whole first paragraph in the Circus Barker voice so we can get something a little interesting going on, or is that too much?
I mean, give it a go. See what you can do.
About 2 miles north of the city, a wide blue banner stretched between 2 tall poles rippled in the wind, proclaiming Valan Luca's grand traveling show and magnificent display of marvels and wonders in brilliant red letters large enough to be read from the road, perhaps 100 paces east. For those unable to read, it at least indicated the location of something out of the ordinary. This was the largest traveling show in the world, so the banner claimed. Luca claimed a great many things, but Matt thought he must be telling the truth about that. The show's canvas wall, 10 feet high and tightly pegged at the bottom, enclosed as much ground as a good-sized village.
I'm dying. So good. Thank you. That was so amazing.
I'm out of breath after that. That takes some. That takes some
air
lungs to belt that out. And nobody else is in the house. Fortunately, that's the only way I can get away with doing that.
Oh, that was so excellent. So cathartic. Yes, and chat is appreciating it greatly.
Oh, I need to get in shape if I do that. Yeah, no, that's fun. That's fun. That was a lot of fun. I'd do that for hours if I could physically.
Yeah, no, singing, talking loudly, projecting like that is a genuinely cardio exercise if you really do it for a sustained period of time.
I think I'd have to stand up as well.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The sitting, I can feel that I was just sitting on my lungs while I was doing that. I kept having to lift my weight up to inhale to get enough air in my lungs to keep going.
Right, and you were way too much. You were too high in the palate to sustain that for very long. You would have gotten a sore throat very quickly. Like much lower in your chest voice would have been way more sustainable, but you couldn't do that sitting. It's just not possible. Right. Yeah, well, maybe next year's Watt Idol will have more of a spoken word component.
That would be fun. Yeah, a little traveling circus.
I mean, it would be very fresh and different. And you've got way more of a booming voice than I do. I smoke a lot of weed, but there's just a chest capacity thing.
I don't have the deepest voice, but I can get down there for a decent, I can go down a little bit like this, but there's some guys out there who just have crazy deep voices.
They do. But that reminds me. So when I always get a ride to my local government monthly meetings. I always get someone else to drive me because I don't drive. And everyone's driving right past my house on the way to get there. And the woman I always get a ride from told me that she listened to one of our podcasts, didn't understand half the words and subscribed because she just wants to be supportive. And she said she really liked your voice.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she said it was very pleasant to listen to, even though she had no idea what we were talking about. So, yeah, passing that along. You have a nice reading voice.
There is something to be said for all the people who listen to us as they fall asleep. And every once in a while, so I do listen to podcasts to sleep to. So, I mean, I get it, obviously. But every once in a while, and I try not to let it happen, but ours will mix in there. And I'll wake up to the sound of my own voice.
Oh, God.
And I'll be just out of it enough to be like, well, that's kind of a nice voice. And I'm like, wait, that's me. No, it's hideous. No, it's awful. And but just for that moment, because I don't realize it's me, I can actually, objectively have that moment of observation where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a decent voice. I'm not half bad to listen to. And I'll be like, and then I wake up and I actually hear what I'm saying and the fact that I'm saying it. And I cringe.
Oh, that's funny.
But God, I hate that experience.
It does sound kind of surreal and uncomfortable.
It is. And I try and delete our podcast as soon as my phone downloads it, but I still want to be subscribed, right? Because I want the one additional download. Like, I listened to it. I was there.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
So we are back at the circus. He's now putting up this giant canvas wall 10 feet high, and he's putting up, he's basically creating one big tent, right? This is the Barnum Bailey's one big tent circus that he's starting to create. Yeah,
the size of a small village, the size of a giant arena, right? This is a really prodigious, unheard of scale for a temporary entertaining venue in this world.
And it's sort of the way things have been going. In the same way that, we've been going towards Matt having cannons and guns. We've been going towards Valan Luca's sort of sideshow becoming a full-blown circus as he takes on fireworks and elephants and, becomes a big top tent and all of this stuff. It's the evolution of the Wheel of Time. I feel like in a lot of ways, now that they've taken the stoppers off of progress, right? I feel in a lot of ways, Ishamael stopped all sorts of progress over the last 3,000 years through his wars.
The fact that he's not got his foot on the brake now does seem to be helping. And when Luca's first introduced, isn't it stated that he's being innovative by including human performers in addition to the animals?
Probably.
He's going from menagerie to something more.
Right. You just used to have a couple of lions in cages and, a zoo on wheels. And then he started adding in people doing actual performances. And it seems like he keeps evolving the idea and it keeps working. He keeps making more money. The more money means he can do more things, make it bigger, more exciting. And, all of a sudden this thing that was kind of sad and tiny is becoming this, grand show where he's showing off things you can't see anywhere else all at once in this one place. And people are coming back time after time after time, spending all the money they have to see all the various things because they can't see everything in one day. It's like, why do people go back to Disneyland day after day after day? There's so much there that you can't see it all in one day. And by the time you've seen it all, well, you want to go back and see it again.
Yeah, totally. He's quite the businessman, for all of his peacocking nonsense. He's clearly quite effective at this whole, like, entrepreneur thing he's doing.
Well, it helps that he keeps getting giant payouts from Aes Sedai and gamblers.
Continually running into Taviran, who are subsidized by the White Tower and by Matt's luck, does help, yes.
The amount of money that Aes Sedai actually receive in stipend, it turns out to be just a ridiculously large, like millions and millions of dollars every year.
Yeah, I really question if those numbers were thought through properly by Jordan. That sounds like an economy crashing amount of money.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the way I think about it is the money is in their bank account held by the White Tower, and that money, until it gets actually withdrawn, doesn't really count. And most of the Aes Sedai aren't really withdrawing that money at a large rate. And then when they die, all that money goes back to the White Tower. So, you know, I imagine that a lot of the White Tower stipend never gets withdrawn. A lot of it's on paper only. A lot of it is simply so the White Tower can throw around their weight with their money, even when it doesn't get spent.
Sure. But sometimes wild-ass Aes Sedai students will end up Taviraning their way around the continent and putting some of that money into the actual arts and entertainment that makes the world a better place rather than just hoarding it. Like they hoard everything else.
Well, yeah. But, you know, everybody's got to have a banking system that creates money. How else do you have a fiat money system? Although I guess they do have it based on gold. But then you wonder, okay, does the White Tower back their money with gold and silver, or are they a fiat currency, White Tower?
I would assume that they're a hard currency, like a gold currency. They're one of the oldest institutions in the known world. And they're like hugely institutional wealthy. They're like the Vatican. Like, of course they have physical wealth.
So is there a Fort Knox of gold underneath the White Tower, guarded by Accepted?
I've always assumed so. Well, and a stout lock. Don't forget a stout
rusty
lock.
No, they're usually pretty rusty at that point.
Yeah, no, I totally assume that they have a basement just absolutely full of gold, and every now and then one of the Amerlins goes down there and does a Scrooge McDuck.
You mean jumps face first into a pile of coins and impacts into it because it's a hard metal surface and with no give whatsoever?
Cartoon physics.
Ah, yes. Cartoon physics.
The most reliable form.
The most reliable form of physics. I mean, maybe until I run Riyadh, right? Because in there, the physics are what you think they are. So I could see going into Teleron Riyadh and creating a pool of gold coins that actually splashes when you jump into it. That would be cool. A sort of a liquid metal type gold situation.
Yeah. Exfoliating.
That's the liquid rock version, actually. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, no, that's lava. I mean, I guess that is exfoliating. It certainly takes off the several layers of skin.
Oh, until I run Riyadh, you can make it whatever temperature you want.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Just some nice pumice in there. You know, people do put pumice in their body washes. I'm just saying. Uh-huh. Right from the source.
Shall we go to paragraph 2?
Man, we are just not.
We're not on this chapter.
Track.
I mean,
yeah, chapter 2. I have nothing highlighted.
Just that, you know, it's a little quiet. There's not a lot of people going to the circus, not because they don't want to go, but just because, like, uncertain economic times and everyone's holding onto their coin because they're afraid that, like, they're not going to have a lot left over to buy food.
That's a completely unreasonable fear during the apocalypse.
Yeah, completely.
Spend all your money on circus, none on bread.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Petra and Clarine, his wife, are saving money for an inn. I just want to note that Matt eventually gives them enough gold to just go buy an inn, which is very sweet of him.
Oh, yeah, he does. He's just like, this gold's going to weigh me down. Would you please take it and start an inn? Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, so Petra and Clarine are out pretending to be involved in a little game of dice, which Matt thinks is odd because they're saving all their money for an inn. And it's because they're out keeping an eye out for him to let him know that there are Seanchan talking to Luca.
Right. Which, as far as I can tell, is a nothing burger, right? In the end, it's just like, hey, they're coming in. They want the horses. Petra says, I've got this thing that says you can't take my horses. And they say, oh, okay, thank you. Have a nice day, sir.
So,
move along.
So did you notice who's doing it, though?
No, I completely missed it. What did I miss?
The pale-haired Shanshan captain who's leading this mission is, I believe... Here I thought I was clever. God damn it, RJ. It's going to be such an ugly edit, too.
Well, we can just cut out the entire part from you say, do you know who that one is? And just everything after that's gone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, welcome to the live version of this one.
I think you're right. I think it is a nothing burger. I think it's a red herring, and I just bit it hook, line, and sinker.
Hey, I mean, Jordan gets us all every once in a while.
I'm supposed to be better than you mere mortals.
He's got to put in enough red herrings so that we can't be like, that's a Forsaken every time he introduces a new character, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I thought I had one, and it was a mirage. A literal mirage.
Maybe that boy was Demondred.
Shut up. Moving on to paragraph 3 or wherever we're going.
Well, I mean, so I don't have a lot. Noel hands his pole and basket to this one-eyed dude, and the one-eyed dude's got a couple of lines, but no name as far as I can tell. I guess Jordan already used Uno, so he couldn't reuse that one. But this is an old one-eyed guy who seems to be shadowing Noel, and I was wondering if there's any significance to him, but I couldn't find any, which seems to be the theme of this chapter of like, hey, we think there's significance here, but there's not.
Yeah, it's everything to do with Noel in this chapter very much feels like something that should be something, but it isn't. Like, he runs off with the fish, and
there's a couple of times where he just disappears, and you're like, okay, cool, that's going to lead to something, right? No, it never leads to anything. Noel, we don't even see Noel for the rest of this book.
Really? Wow.
Not very much.
Yeah, I could never figure out what he's doing here. It doesn't seem like he's betraying Matt or picking up a cool artifact or anything. He just runs off to do something mysterious. Matt spends half a paragraph thinking about it, and then nothing ever comes of it. But yeah, Noel's very first response to hearing about this is, who do I need to kill? Which is a very interesting first reaction for him to have. It's like, who will I need to kill so that we can escape? He goes instantly into escape mode, which does say something about what he's been through. That his very first whiff of danger, he's like, well, clearly we're running. And Matt's like, nah, we're not going to run. That would be too complicated.
But the thing to realize is, like, Noel's next appearance, he does one appearance where he's telling stories in Tuon's wagon in chapter 28. And then we don't see him again until Knife of Dreams. So there's no, like, follow-up to this, him, like, disappearing for a second and doing any of that kind of stuff. There's no, like, oh, yeah, later he's got this fish that he's given away to this guy, and that was his point of contact. Like, nothing like that ever happens. Maybe he's Demondred.
That's clearly the only explanation that actually fits the facts. Yeah, I got nothing. Whatever he does, it doesn't mean anything. Headcanon, it will. But there's a line here. A traveling show, strangers just passing through, made a particularly easy target without added complications. Which just is always so true when you are the strangers in town, when you're the weirdos and the odd ones out. Like, and then there's an invasion from the sea. It's a dangerous time to be an outsider.
Right. And then there's this little mini power struggle between Matt and Egeanin, where Eganen's like, I'm in charge because I'll beat you up if you don't do what I say. And meanwhile, Matt's like, yeah, here's the gold. I'm paying you. Do what I say. And everyone's like, yes, sir, Matt, sir.
Yeah, but it's not to them because she's the one making the promise about the gold. And everyone's supposed to think that they're a couple anyway. So
Right. Because, yeah, of course, if the wife promises the gold, you assume that that's a legit promise. Which, right, we just talk about that for a second?
But yeah.
What the fuck? Why? With Dolman right there, is Matt walking around with Domon's girlfriend, owner, whatever.
Fucking Shanshan.
Yeah, fuck Shanshan. Why is he walking around with her in order to hide his not relationship with Tuon, which doesn't exist in the first place.
It's because Matt needs an excuse for why he's running with them. They needed a reason for the party to be together. So they concocted this really ridiculous backstory, which maybe is part of where Sanderson got the idea from.
I was going to say, this feels like an echo of where Sanderson got Matt always writes ridiculous backstories from, even though this feels like a one-time occurrence where Matt was just like, I almost feel like because he knows he's getting married to Tuon, he's sort of creating this alternate marriage in a way to kind of like test her and push her a little bit. I feel like in a lot of ways, Matt is reacting to the foreknowledge that he will marry the daughter of the Nine Moons by creating this ridiculous scenario with Eginin in order to sort of push her a little bit.
You know, given the way that Egyon and Domon interact non-verbally in this chapter, I could totally see Jordan putting that into Matt's thought process, even though I completely disagree with it as a person.
Totally subconsciously.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not saying like he's like consciously like, I want to test these people. I'm just saying he's like, oh, I'll come up with this story and you want me to get married? I'll make up a story where I'm married and see what you think about that. You know, this is a very sort of stubborn boy, kick the rock down the road, but stub your toe doing it attitude.
Yeah, that's how Jordan writes basically every relationship in its early building stages. So why not here too? No, I could buy that. But it's the silliest cover story, and I'm frustrated with how many people seem to buy it because there is no chemistry here. How are the women who are supposedly so empathetic and emotional not picking up on the complete lack of chemistry?
Well, women aren't very good at chemistry. They should stick to soft sciences. Sorry, I can't even say that with a straight face. Yeah, anyway. So, of course, we point out the Foxhead Medallion in Recap Land. Yes, he's got it. It protects him from channeling. I would also like to note that at this point, no dice are tumbling in his head. We do get that pointed out as well. We are free of the warning alarm dice that something bad is coming.
Until the end of the chapter. And then they come
That's why I'm pointing it out now, right? Because as of right now, the dice are not tumbling in his head. And at some point later, we'll have multiple sets of dice tumbling in his head, which is just incredibly frustrating to keep track of.
Yeah. I honestly think that that's an OP mechanic. You have to only have one set of dice. If I was writing in this world, I would only allow one set of dice at a time.
Otherwise, it's like you can't even hear the warnings in among the mornings. It's just like, oh, yeah, there's always something bad coming. Okay. Dice just randomly going off in my head to various levels. How do you even respond to that?
Yeah, spoilers, you're going to have an exciting and dangerous life during the end of days. Like, so helpful.
Right. Yeah. That's why I feel like the dice in a lot of ways is just the most useless talent. Like this idea that he hears danger approaching, except danger turns out to be mostly Tuon. Right. Out of the 15 or so various dice rolls in his head, like 9 of them are about Tuon, and it's like,
yeah.
Okay. Is it really just, is it about danger or is it about your future wife?
Yes.
Yeah. At which point you consider that danger, but that's a whole nother, that might have something to do with it.
Yeah. So Matt sends everyone away and then goes to do recon himself, and Egyon invites herself along. And she very challengingly says, I'm a Demir Ebudari woman. You can do all the talking. And it's just glaring daggers at him. And it's just a silly power play between them. But also, I just love her angrily staring at him with this very aggressive stance saying, I am Demir.
Which is totally a reference to his last chapter when he told her to act like a Demir Damani.
They're known for being
women,
Demir.
And she's like, no, they're not. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing to say. I've lived in Ebudar. You can't say they're Demure.
So
right?
She's throwing it back in his face now.
Exactly. As this, that was a ridiculous request. How dare you, now I'm going to be a Demure, which is fuck you.
Yeah. And it's also got a bit of, I will not shout at you, Nynaeve shouted. Like,
Yeah,
she's in a power pose as she says, I am Demir. You know? It's amazing. And then we get a description of all the tents or all the wagons. And I just want to remind everyone of my favorite headcanon of all time, which is that Luca is a former Tuatha'an and has taken their love of color and style and travel and turned it into a profitable business where he does all kinds of things that are not legally prohibited, but are culturally prescribed in Tuatha'an culture. And he's just living his best Tuatha'an renegade life.
Can we shortcut him as the capitalist Tuatha'an?
Yes!
The rest of them are the communist Tuatha'an, and he's the capitalist Tuatha'an. He's like, let me take all the principles of Tuatha'an and make money with it.
Yeah.
Because he's still pretty nonviolent and colorful, and he takes
they
most
turn
of the
and run if there's danger.
Yep.
Like, they don't fight.
No.
They have guards to keep mobs from having a crowd crush at the entrance. Like, that's it, you know?
Mm-hmm. But they're never trying to fight, and when they do, it's usually very, very, clubs instead of the whole bruising instead of bleeding people, right?
Yeah. None of them are in this for competitive fighting sports. None of them are athletes that hit each other for there's no gladiators, nothing like that. I love the idea that he is not only a former Tuatha'an, he is the one who figured out capitalism.
Right. He's just like, wait, if I can pay people off, they won't abuse me. I can just make enough money to be nonviolent. Sweet. And with his threats, with his, Tuatha'an understand threats. They have the big dogs. They have the mastiffs. They're certainly willing to threaten you, or by implication anyway. So he's got these big muscly dudes with clubs.
Yeah, and he doesn't actually make everyone in the caravan swear to the way of the leaf. So if he does end up with muscle protecting him, oh dear.
No, yeah.
How terrible.
Right. Just, it's sort of the same thing as the Tuatha'an hiding behind Perrin while he fights the Trollocs, right? They're not doing violence, they're just hiding behind people who are doing violence.
Yeah, so we're adding another layer to this most favored of headcanons. He went from being a communist hippie Tuatha'an to a capitalist entertaining traveling circus master.
All right, here's where I'm expanding the headcanon, okay?
All right.
Last surviving member of a caravan, right? So he has all the resources, all of the wagons, all of the clothing, and he meets up with a couple of people on the road who maybe have some talents or some animals. And so Luca, as the last surviving, maybe young adult, slightly perhaps a child, starts Valan Luca's traveling show by, recruiting a few people to help him move the wagons. And when he really gets to a town, and similar to the way Rand, right, and Matt had no way to stay, so they started playing the flute and entertaining people for money. Valan Luca started entertaining people for money just to pay his way. And you have the birth of Valan Luca's traveling show.
Oh, man. He's 15 years old, and either bandits or some spoiled food takes everyone out. He doesn't know what to do, but he's 15, so he can't lay down and die. Oh my God, it's so sad. And then it's so triumphant. And now he just never talks about it. He just puts on a big brave face and twirls his cape. And he's basically like Oliver. He's got a similar backstory to Oliver.
And maybe he was too young. He didn't have his room spring up yet, so he has never really sworn to the way of the leaf, even though he was raised as a tinker, right? He still believes in it, kind of, but, not really.
It didn't protect him from losing everyone he ever loved, so he's going to do what he needs to do to survive. And
that's why he's obsessed with making money, because money is protection. Money is a way to control people around you, right? That's how you stay alive. And of course, he doesn't call himself a tinker, right? He wouldn't do that.
Of course not. Of course not. That's probably part of why they all died, was because no one would feed them when they were starving, because they were just dirty tinkers. Oh.
He's a businessman. That's a different thing.
Yeah. If you can push aside that cultural tarnishment and be like, no, I'm not like them. I'm not like them at all. I look like them, but I'm not like them. Oh my God. And now he's using all of that, and probably started with the original wagons from like the dead of his why are you making this such a watertight and heartbreaking story?
Well, Valan Luca deserves a backstory. After all named characters get a backstory, right? So we're just giving this one to Valan Luca.
Wow. Yeah, that's someone write that up so we can put it in the headcanon library. 'Cause, woof. Moving through the circus, we then get a nice long look at Aludra, who is hot.
Oh, yeah. Exotic.
She's grinding up some. And grinding.
Mm-hmm.
She's grinding.
Not like that. With a mortar and pestle.
In public.
Yeah. Oh my God. That dirty. You know what?
It's explosive.
That might explode. I was going to say it's. You never know when someone grinds like that out in public when it's going to just blow up right in your face.
But yeah, no, I wish that he didn't describe her as exotic, but it is fun that the engineer is the most exotic marvel that he's got. I do kind of like framing engineering as exotic.
Intelligence is exotic.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Aludra, right? She's fucking brilliant.
Oh my God.
She's a chemist. She's a brilliant chemist is what she really boils down to. She understands compounds. She understands the physics of cannons, how to make them strong enough, thick enough that they can withstand the explosive forces. So she has to understand force diagrams. Like she has to understand like stress and strain. She has to understand material science. She has to understand chemistry. I mean, the talents that come together in Aludra to make cannons is a rare list of talents that not everybody can have. And
so hot.
Much better match for Matt than Choedan.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Oh,
and wouldn't it be cool to see one of the boys date a much older woman?
Yeah, and wouldn't it be cool if the guy who can use cannons best is paired up with the woman who can make cannons best?
Right.
Like,
and it's not like they weren't making out, right?
I know. It's not like they weren't both really into it.
Right. He was kissing her when he was dating Choedan. Or not Choedan, Tylan.
She also doesn't own slaves, which is pretty cool.
In terms of, characters I'd like my significant other to have, not owning slaves is high on the list.
Yeah, no, I totally put her in kind of the same bin as Min in terms of like my very favorite characters that like can do no wrong, and no discussions about other characters will ever dislodge those two. Like I love the intelligence and the relative lack of power, but the unwillingness to take a backseat. Like Aludra refuses to not be a world-changing
I'm going to say she changes the world, right?
She's homeless. She's been cast out of her community. She has no resources, and she's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build fucking cannons, and I'm going to change the course of the last battle. And she never loses sight of that, no matter how far down she gets knocked.
Fuck the course of the last battle. What happens after the last battle, I think, is incredibly determined by the development of cannons and guns, right? It changes warfare, as we have seen.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah, she's thinking about dealing with the Shan-Chan when she's coming up with these plans. Like, really, she's not thinking about the last battle. So, yeah, it's just she never loses sight of how important she can be. And it makes her a sexy exploding lamp. So, yeah.
And she knows it. She's like, yeah, I have these secrets. I have these knowledge. I figured this shit out. Like, I deserve better. I deserve more. Like, she's never questioned her own worthiness.
No, never once. And we love her for it.
But meanwhile, Matt's, Eganon's poking at him for like, oh, why are you looking at that pretty girl? Meanwhile, he's like, oh, yeah, that's why I'm looking at her, because she's a pretty girl, not that she holds the secrets to winning the last battle. Right. Yeah. We get this line, a tinker would have blushed, describing the wagons, the tin chimneys painted in red and blue. Like,
garish as all hell. It's very, like Dr. Seuss. It's got that kind of whimsical, like Whoville sort of thing going on. Yeah, the soldiers, the Shan-Chan soldiers look drab in comparison, and they're always described as having colorful armor, but they are drab in comparison to this camp. Domon's already there spying on them.
He's sitting there whittling, but by whittling, he's just, he's carving a piece of wood down to nothing over and over and over again. Like, he's just taking wood off of a piece of wood.
Yeah, he's pretending to be carving something, but all he's actually doing is making fire starter. Because he's really, really worried about everything. He's worried for Ageenan. He's worried for himself. He's got a lot of worries. So that piece of wood just has to take it.
And he's spying, right? They're all trying to watch what's going on in these various spots around, rather than, and they don't want to give themselves away as watchers. That's the whole thing, that he's like, Matt's sneaking up to like watch the events that are going on, and he's seeing everybody else who's also kind of just watching, and Bail Damon's just, he's whittling to avoid being seen as someone who's watching.
Yeah. And so then the man who is not more exits the trailer, and we learn that there's literally nothing happening. Whoop-de-fucking-do.
Right? Isn't that such a counter, like, you're a letdown a little bit?
I mean, it's real life that some stupid asshole at the DMV just decides that they want to double-check your shit for no reason, and it just takes longer. Like, it's very real, but it's like, again, Jordan, we're here for escapism. What is with this realism in my books?
So then we get the whole bit about Ageenan knowing the guy who was in charge, which we determined we couldn't find any relevance to who that guy is. You thought it was more. It's not. We don't think it is.
It's just some punk.
I honestly just think it's a way for Jordan to be like, her, she's abrasive. I wonder how many people remember her because she pissed them off. You know, I wonder if it's just like literally just for that dumb joke punchline where it's just like, everybody remembers her because she pissed everybody off. So of course you remember the person who screwed you over, and she screwed over a lot of people, and that's going to be a problem.
I mean, it's a very Matt thing to think, and Jordan does take on the headspace of the characters he's writing, so I could totally see him escalating that for a dumb joke.
How many other people had she gotten crosswise, fixing her face in their minds? Ageenan being Ageenan, probably hundreds. And
thousands,
he'd been letting
more
her,
likely.
Yeah, right, thousands. And he'd been letting her walk around with just a wig and a change of clothes for disguise. Hundreds, thousands more likely. She could irritate a brick. So yeah, that whole paragraph about how she's just very noticeable, I think is honestly the whole point of that interaction. Like, we're halfway through this chapter, and
I hate it.
The whole point of it is for her to be the butt of this joke.
Har har. Good job. Moving on.
Also, recap.
Yeah. Recap. So then it's horses and Luca spluttering about horses and Matt laughing about how Luca's making nothing out of a molehill, because we need to do more recap about how they ended up at the circus, aka Matt shoved gold at Luca and Luca did what Luca does because he's a capitalist.
Yeah, because he's like, I would have left right away, but you wanted me to stay. And Matt's like, well, if you'd run, they would have probably come after you, and then you would have gotten arrested as a traitor. So it's good that we stayed, you know, like, we're being deceptive by staying longer and not fleeing, even though fleeing might feel like it's safer. It's actually more dangerous. But in that whole thing, they're just recapping how they got there.
Yeah, my favorite part is the line, for enough gold, Valan Luca would help kidnap the Dark One. I really wish that had been a subplot. I really wish someone had been like, we need to kidnap the Dark One and we need a brightly colored wagon to do it.
It would have been a really cool scene if somehow, like, Shadar Haran had gotten kidnapped and unable to teleport, and, like, they needed Valan Luca to, like, transport him, and, like, in order to stop him from being transported and sealed away forever, the Dark One broke out of Shadar Haran, and that's how the final battle started, because Valan Luca was transporting Shadar Haran to somewhere that was going to be bad for him. You know, like, that would have been
so fun.
Yeah. Literally him kidnapping the Dark One in the form of Murdral. Just with like you know, bright lanterns on everywhere, so there's no shadows for him to escape into and everything. Yeah. Like a specialty prison.
Totally. God, that would have been so fun.
That's a better use of the circus than this crap.
Seriously. And then we get the life update that Luca is married now to Littell.
Well, we did learn that in Winter's Heart. So this is not... Okay. Yeah, we did learn that in Winter's Heart. And we talked about it.
Being reminded of that.
We're being reminded. Yes, again, recap. Not new news, just a recap.
Okay, never mind. Yeah.
What's funny is I'm listening to Knife of Dreams. Knife of Dreams. And I kind of love the circus in Knife of Dreams. Like, in Matt, in this book, it's really hard to listen to because it feels just boring. But then you get to the next book and you're like, oh, this is actually like the dance between Matt and Tuon happens. And it's really not going on in this book.
Knife of Dreams. We're going to get to you. We're getting there.
We're coming. We just got to slog through this stuff first.
Yeah. Yeah, we get some recap on how Matt is using the Aes Sedai and the Suldam to kind of guard each other while they do
They're all
this whole
stuck
thing.
in one van together. I'm sure that any 6 people would kill each other in that situation, much less 3 people who hate the other 3.
Oh my God, seriously. And it also kind of reprises when Nynaeve and Elaine and Brigida all had to stay in there. It's like, wow, Jordan has shoved a bunch of angry cats into a small box and shaken it at the circus again. I guess that's the only way things ever go down at the circus.
I mean, I feel like it's, if you watch reality TV, that's basically what they do, right? They put a bunch of people with big egos into a small box and then shake it until they start clawing at each other. And we all love watching that shit. So I feel like Jordan was really ahead of his time. This is just the reality TV section of the Wheel of Time. It's the trash TV where he's like, I'm going to take these women and make them fight over a man in a small box and live together. Have fun.
Oh my God. This was published in 2003. So this is actually like around when Survivor gets going, I think.
Sure. I mean, Survivor was, yeah, that's about right.
This is around when I remember being exposed to Survivor, and I know that I saw it in the fairly early stages. I don't know exactly when because I was a kid, but like he may very well have been observing reality TV and drawing on that same muse and being like, it seems like people really like this trashy bullshit.
I think it's still too early. I think it was not nearly popular. It was like a very niche thing. And
All right, someone fact check Seth and tell us how long reality TV has been around. Someone fact check.
Well, because I remember Survivor happened when I was in college, right? So I can narrow it down to a 4-year span. And he was certainly writing these books before they came out. Well, yeah, Real World was different. I don't know.
When did the Truman Show come out? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he might have been picking up on the same thing in the air that made reality TV boom. He might have been picking up on that same thing.
I would argue the opposite, that he's more picking up on the fact that humans are base in that way, that, everybody enjoys watching a bunch of people who don't like each other being shoved together, and he's a good storyteller, and that's a classic of stories for a long, long time.
No, Survivor invented it in 2000. No one has ever enjoyed that before.
No, yep, nothing's a remix. No, Survivor is full of nothing but original ideas. That show is not derivative.
Okay, Truman Show is 98, Big Brother's 99. Reality TV is in the zeitgeist when this book gets published.
Okay. I'm just not sure it's in Jordan's zeitgeist because he's
an old man with a typewriter and a fishing pole and a pipe.
Who reads a lot of novels all the time.
Though, in fairness, as Legion's pointing out, the Big Brother idea does kind of come from 1984. The novel. Right,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, right.
So, yeah, you're probably much more correct to say that Jordan is ahead of the curve. And unfortunately, maybe somebody read these chapters and thought, you know what I should do? I should ruin TV. Because TV is perfect and has no problems, and I will ruin it based on this circus plot.
You know what TV needs? More circus plots. That's really what it needs.
Yeah. I very quickly ran out of energy for reality TV. I do not like it as a genre. I enjoyed being, a preteen and watching it with my family because it was a family thing. But once you've seen all the moves and you've moved farther into adolescence, you're like, I actually hate this.
My previous neighbors right before I moved had a weekly watch party for Bachelor or Bachelorette, whichever one was playing at the time. And we joined them on more than one occasion. And like, I think for an episode or two, I was like, oh, okay, I can get into this. This is cool. And then I lost it. Like, I was just like, no, I can't. It's just so repetitive. And I didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I hate reality TV altogether as an adult. I did get through one episode of The Bachelor when I was like really, really sick with the flu. My brain was brought down to a level where I actually did find the latter half of an episode of The Bachelor entertaining. But yeah.
I feel like as long as you acknowledge that most of it is just edited to be completely out of context and you're never ever seeing what's actually going on in these people's heads, you're just seeing weirdly edited clips so that they're creating a different narrative. As long as you can acknowledge that and move on and just be like, okay, this is not actually reality.
No, I mean, I just hate it. Like, I do not want to see drama. I do not want that kind of a story in my head. Like, period. It's disgusting.
So, yeah. And I still do, and never likes it. My former neighbors, who are my friends, like it. So I still do have an occasional night where we all hang out and watch reality television. I tend to cook and make drinks and clean up and serve people and, make sure that everybody else is happy so that I don't
that
have
can
to
be fun.
Well, yeah.
There's a warm bubbling noise
right.
off in the corner, and that's fine.
Yeah. I do the same thing at the Super Bowl, right? Like, I love having people over and having a good time, and I want those people to have a good time, and I'm willing to do the work, and it makes me happy to see those people having fun, and I don't need to watch the game or the show.
Yeah, I hate football just as much as I hate reality TV. So, yeah, that tracks.
On the other hand, you put on some crappy-ass sci-fi show with bad special effects and actors who can't emote, I am glued to that couch. You are not getting me up. Like, that is my jam. I am watching that shit, and I want to know all the foreshadowing for the stupid twist they're going to have at the end. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I have good taste in media. I'm just saying these particular things don't hit my palate. I have terrible taste in other media, but...
Well, because, look at what we're doing. We're looking for foreshadowing and clues and cleverness in plot. And reality shows the opposite. It is just shit happens for random reasons because people get emotional.
And then the clever editing attempts to make it more narratively coherent than actual
Sure, and you give it a narrative, but it's
it's not clever in the same way. Where are we? Oh, Egyanan tells Matt he doesn't know anything about command, and he's like, because he's Matt, and obviously he knows a few things about command, but he can't tell anyone that, so he just has to take it silently.
Well, and I guess right now what's going on is Matt has made the decision they're going to leave when Tom returns from wherever Tom's gone, which I assume is just scouting the local area for news like he does.
Yeah, just like when he was in Saladar.
Right,
it's just what Tom does.
So as soon as he comes back, which everyone assumes, assuming he's coming back relatively soon. So everybody's sort of getting ready to go. It's like once everybody's back, Tom's the only one's missing. Let's start packing up.
Yeah, we revisit with Julian and Amathera, get reminded of what they look like and who they are. We get reintroduced to Oliver and the fact that Oliver's in love with the game of snakes and foxes. He's 10 years old. Julian and Amathera are definitely a couple. And Matt has the bizarrely emotionally aware thought that he hopes that Amathera feels more for Julian than gratitude because Julian clearly feels more for her. And it's weird that Matt would be the person being like, wow, I hope that that's not just a one-sided thing. It doesn't seem the kind of thing he'd pick up on because he's so clueless normally, but it's a nice little note in the middle of all that recap.
It is something where Amathera has gone through hell and back again, and she sort of found solace in Julian as a protector.
Yeah, I'm happy for her with that. It's a sweet little tiny plot. I don't know how they managed to develop a relationship based on like genuine emotion given how they met and what she's been through, but like more power to them. It's kind of like if Talanvor wasn't a fucking creep, right? Because Julian did meet her as a queen and kind of have a crush on her from afar and then find himself in a situation where he could rescue her and take care of her. But, like, it's not weird this time.
I believe it's the constant following her around and not saying anything and just watching that really makes him a creep.
Right. I don't know what Julian did, but clearly it wasn't quite that weird. Oliver's really cute and breaks the ice.
He's not allowed to ride the horse until they're far enough away that nobody's going to remember the little boy on a gray horse. Which I'm like, how famous was he? Maybe a little famous.
But again, just
recapping, like, hey, remember Oliver used to race horses in the circuit? And, like, there's a lot of this is what has happened to this group of people over the last couple of books. Because remember, you know, he was under a wall for a book, and then there was the whole escape plan for a book. So...
And then we just keep getting reminded about how Noel's doing something weird with his fish. But we don't know what.
Don't know what. Man, Matt spends a lot of time in Abu Dar. It really is books after book after book.
Hence the recap being so fucking boring. We already hated it once.
Matt started to ask Noel where he'd been, but the old man darted nimbly after Julian. So again, it's just this like weird teaser about like where's Nolan going, and then just nothing, as far as I can tell, to follow up with that.
In any case, the question suddenly seemed unimportant. Like, Jordan's drawing all this attention to it, and then he's like, ha, got you. You know,
pointing out that Oliver's got the Snakes and Foxes game that he prizes, which will be important later, wink, wink, when we're actually rescuing Moraine from the tower. And that's kind of the end of the chapter, where we get to Matt hearing the dice rolling in his head again.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. And if I remember correctly, or if the White Tower Tarvalon Library is correct, the dice stop rolling when Tuon promises not to escape as long as he keeps his promises.
Which is a pretty soon conversation.
That's next chapter.
Sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
And then there's one more. The dice stop rolling when Tuon smiles at Matt, but that's chapter 28. So that's another dice rolling that happens later. But again, all related to Tuon and her actions and her decisions to stay with him and everything like that.
All about Tuon.
The noise of people shouting for horse handlers to bring their teams and others demanding at the top of their lungs to know what was happening was beginning to fill the camp. Adria, a slim woman holding a flowered green robe around her, came running up in bare feet and vanished into the yellow wagon, where the other 4 contortionists lived. Somebody in the green wagon bellowed hoarsely that people were trying to sleep. A handful of performers' children, some performers themselves, dashed by, and Oliver looked up from folding the game. That was his most prized possession, but if not for that, he plainly would have gone after them. So Oliver on his way to becoming a performer as well as a soldier. He's getting all the skills. Mm-hmm. It was going to take some time yet before the show was ready to travel. That was not what made Matt groan. He had just heard those bloody dice start rattling in his head again. End scene.
Hi, welcome back. We're doing With the Choedan Call Part 2. For Chapter 2.
POV 2, Elza. So we've done the long bit of Matt, and here we have, about a page, slightly over a page of Elza?
Yeah, on my book, which is with the pretty big spacing, it's 2 facing pages, the vast majority of the 2 facing pages.
Okay. So, and just quick reminder, who is Elza?
Elza is a Dark Friend Aes Sedai. I actually forget her public affiliation, but she is a Dark Friend.
She's green.
But yeah, she's a Dark Friend, and she is going to be involved in Semirog's final escape attempt and demise. She actually gets killed by Rand in the collateral of being behind Semirog.
And she was compelled by Varen to support Rand, and that's where her motivation that she found in her own heart was he must make it to the last battle no matter what.
So that he can lose and die at the appropriate time, but he must be protected to get there. Yeah.
The Dark One has to be the one to kill the dragon in the final battle.
Right.
Is sort of her like dark friendery. So she's like a bad guy, but she's hell-bent on protecting Rand at all costs.
Yes.
Which kind of makes her a good guy. It's
temporarily.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like if Rand had gone the other way on Dragonmount during Veins of Gold, she would have been totally vindicated.
Right, and she would have been there to immediately be his Aes Sedai follower after he comes down as Dark Rand. Like, she would have been there, which would have been cool for her. That would have been very vindicating. But so yeah, that's the POV that we're in, and she is sort of surveying how Cadsuane distributes the forces of protection around Rand and Nynaeve, while also observing what Rand and Nynaeve look like here at the beginning once they've only just recently started channeling.
Which is, again, if you didn't catch my last segment, the cleansing of the source is very sexual. And again, Nynaeve's reaction is... again, a picture of someone who is being a very sexual person. Despite the cold, beads of sweat on her face, her lips were parted and her eyes wide, staring rapturously beyond the Dragon Reborn.
She could also be tripping on some really good drugs.
Yeah, that could be true. That could be happening as well. And it could be a combination of both, right? This idea that like there's magic intercourse in the sky on really good drugs. And embracing the one power has been described essentially as being on a really good drug many, many times. And the more power, the more high you get. And they are channeling the most power anybody has ever channeled ever by far for a long time.
This is like hippie flipping, but for channelers.
We get a statement from Cadsuane that everybody is going to feel that all around the world, maybe even in Tar Valon.
Yeah, she says it will begin soon because the entire world is now aware of what's happening in this spot.
Including the Forsaken, although nobody from Tar Valon shows up. Only the Forsaken do. We don't get any travelers. None of the, none of the Aes Sedai who have learned traveling. None of the Sea Folk. None of the Wise Ones. Nobody's dumb enough to show up and be like, what's all this power here? Let me go investigate. Not until it's over anyway.
Sane people run and duck and cover when an orgy of this power comes ringing through the ether from the other side of the planet, right? Only the Forsaken are going to know that that means that their target is in a specific spot. Everyone else is terrified and doesn't creep in to see what happened until after the roaring, screaming sunburst is over. Though I imagine that the Dark Friends probably are the first to approach, because like Liandrin comes back to the tower from checking it out. Like that's the next we see her. Not Liandrin, Alviarin. All right, so let's talk about these circles.
Sure.
First one is Elza and Maurice and Jahar with Kalendor. That's the circle that Elza herself is in. So 3 people to handle... No, 4 people. Right? No, it's 3 people.
No, 3.
Yeah, this is the Kalendor arrangement. This is how you drive Kalendor, is 2 women and 1 man. And so he who pulled it out shall follow after is getting to operate Kalendor according to the user manual and thus does not have issues.
Right, isn't going insane. Right. And so he's staying behind. That circle is staying on the hill with Cadsuane and her circle. Yes. You also have Serene and Corell and Flynn is sort of the second circle.
Yes.
Then Nessun, Beldine, and Dagion with Hopwell.
So that's a quartet. Yeah.
That's 4. And that's Nessun and Beldine. Why do I know those 2 names? Those tend to come together.
Nessun and Beldine.
Oh, they are in the group that had to swear fealty to Rand because of the Varen compulsion. So again, these are 2 more, right? Like a lot of the people here are the Aes Sedai who swore fealty to Rand because of Dumai's Wells and then Varen's subsequent compulsion to make them do it. So that's sort of an interesting little... There's a lot of Dark Friend support here. With Rand, between Elza and Varen doing her thing, and the various, it's a very interesting group that end up fighting for him.
The cleansing wouldn't have happened without multiple Dark Friends contributing. It really wouldn't have worked.
Evil turning on itself.
Rand even says later that it's ironic that the Dark One and the taint is what gives him access to the memories that allow him to win. it's also ironic in the same way how there are these dark friends who are so dedicated to getting Rand up to the last battle that they end up supporting him through making the last battle something worth fighting, because there will be like a life after without the tainted source.
Yeah. It's like good doesn't win, but evil defeats itself. I think that is a common theme in Magic, though, right? This idea that what makes evil evil is that it turns on itself, and what makes good good is that it brings itself up and supports itself. And I think that can be applied to office dynamics if you really stretch.
Yeah, and there's an element of because evil is the snake eating its own tail kind of thing, and then goodness is just the concept of hope, basically, which does not die. In the worst, most direst of circumstances, hope will still just spontaneously generate itself because that's how people are. So,
which brings us back to the Horn of Valir and its origins. Where did it come from? Why do the heroes return? I mean, that's where we have to look at the creator taking an actual hand in things, which now that we know a little more about Nakomi and her origins, seems more likely to me that the creator is actually doing things to influence his world in a positive way. He has an avatar who comes down and influences things for the better. Why not create a horn and drop it in among the people to summon your greatest heroes, if that's what you are as the creator?
The Horn of Hope of Valir.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I agree that it fits with the meta we've been given.
I mean, where does the horn come from, right?
The Teleran Riyadh fart.
So here's kind of my headcanon for where it originally came from, is that someone dreamed up the idea of the horn in Teleran Riyadh and then was somehow ripped out physically. Because remember, Brigida took her arrow with her? Mm-hmm. Remember, what if you took the horn with you in the same way? And it was an imagined item that would never existed to begin with, but was somehow pulled out of Teleran Riyadh into the real world. And so was linked to Teleran Riyadh and could pull the heroes out that way, but was also just like an imagined item that someone dreamed up and never existed to begin with.
I love that. I'll take that. That's good. That's good stuff.
What did that arrow end up being melted down into? Wasn't it something important?
It became the leashless Adom.
The leashless Adom, right. And what ended up happening to that after Moghedien escaped?
Egwene puts it in a random belt pouch and never thinks about it again.
Fair. Because that was Teleran Riyadh metal, which would have been cool if it had like a different property.
Right, but its only property was being one of Brigida's arrows.
Right.
So.
Well, I'll go back to the Lycanus trilogy. This is a trilogy you've heard me talk about a few times. Excellent trilogy, very complete, very clever. And one of the things it does is it has metal that is kind of special that resists time decay. And anyway, it sort of reminds me of that.
No, I like it.
If you want more fulfilling artifacts, I think Lycanus trilogy is a good way to go. There's a lot of artifacts that have meaning in that series.
Yeah, so I imagine that when nobody knows about this random silver bracelet and necklace and it gets lost in some random pile of junk and buried in a landfill, it'll probably just vanish one day back until they run Riyadh, because there's no legends like anchoring it to the real world, which would never happen with the Horn of Valir, because millions of people are putting their faith in it. Like, I do believe in fairies, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Varen and Kumira and Shallan. Shallan, the blackmailed bisexual.
Okay, she's just like super powerful and raw power, right?
I believe that that's who we've brought. Yeah, because she's the only one who gets to come along with Hareen. It's Hareen and her sister are like the only sea folk that get to come along. So yeah. And yeah, she is sister to this really important person. And she's not like Talon strength or anything, but she's Shallan strength, because thank you, Jordan.
Oh, so this isn't Talon. This is Shallan. So, oh, wow.
She's a proper wave mistress. She's not an apprentice.
Right. She's okay.
They are very different characters in terms of their rank in the sea folk hierarchy.
And her sister is Hareen. And Hareen complained because she's actually the younger but her older sister looks younger than her because she's channeling.
I don't recall her complaining about her looking younger, but Hareen does complain about how she has to be... No, Shallan complains about how she has to listen to her little sibling.
Right.
And take her orders, even though she had literally raised the kid. She's literally raised her youngest sibling with her own children. But now she has to take orders from her. And then Hareen is resentful in this situation because she's a liability, right? She can't actually be a combatant. So her and Min have to get, like, hidden behind a rock and guarded by Moad, basically. But Shallan actually gets to do something cool, which is be a battery. Like, Varen and Chimera, I don't think they do anything. I mean, they kill someone at some point, but Shallan doesn't ever get to think about, like, the cool part she played, you know?
And the only thing I'll say is that Shallan was found in bed with Alil, who is now supporting Egwene because Codswain was blackmailing her about, or not, is now supporting Elaine. So, like, that brings us back to the Elaine plot line where she's being supported by this noble because of their affair that Codswain found out about.
Yes, exactly. And then there's Olivia, who is a circle unto herself.
Right. Well, because she has Nynaeve's paralysis net. She has all of those ter'angreal that essentially makes her a one-man battle station, right? Because it disrupts weaves that come at her. It gives her a physical force field. She has a well. She has Matt's medallion. She has the thing that points out where people are channeling. You know, she's just... And then she is, of course, in and of herself, a incredibly highly trained battle fighter with the one power. And incredibly strong.
Yeah, and the most powerful channeler by a mile.
That we ever, I think, right? Isn't she the most powerful female channeler we encounter in the series, right?
Yeah, by orders of magnitude that make you figure she could probably give Rand a run for his money.
Like, even stronger than Nynaeve. She's definitely stronger than Nynaeve. She's in that tier because there's 3 or 4 that are stronger than Nynaeve. But there's also that grandmother, and then there's the sea folk finder, Talon. And you're saying she blows them out of the water as well?
I believe she does. And that's with her raw strength. Certainly now all powered up, she could take down 3 Forsaken with one hand tied behind her back.
Because there's definitely an Angreal in the paralysis net as well.
Oh, yeah. She's got amplifiers on top of all that protection. Yeah. So she doesn't need a circle. She's fine. She goes off all on her own. So they've got 4 groups, if you include Olivia as a group.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually, if you include Olivia.
Well, they've got 4 groups around the bottom of the hill, and then 1 group parked up at the top.
Oh, okay. Yes.
If you allow Olivia to be considered a group. And Codswain is not counted as a group because she's the commander of the entire forces, though she is also a defender herself.
Right, but she's mostly just pointing out where to use Kalendor.
Right. But she's holding a shield that's very sneaky overhead. And then at one point, she also, like, lessens the shield briefly to give Nynaeve some healing. Right.
So I feel like she's activating various ter'angreal to give her all sorts of, like, protective effects on the hill they're on. So they can't just be blown up from a distance.
Right, yeah. She's the very last line of defense and also the brains of the operation. She's running multiple... She is the captain of this ship in every sense of the word. She is the coxswain of the cleansing.
And that's where the name comes from. Mm-hmm. Because, Rand's essentially immobile. He's off doing his own thing. She's like, okay, you two you're going to be helpless. Rand and Nynaeve are going to be helpless, and we need to make sure that they don't die. And then, Elza asks to meld the flows, which will lead to her blowing a Forsaken out of the sky for the second and final time. Goodbye to Osingar.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What's up with this whole, she wants to meld the flows and she was expecting to have to plead, but then Maurice allows her to meld the flows without protest. Like, why is that important?
Let me look up Maurice here for a second. I don't know enough about her to...
Like, why does Elza want to do this, and why is Maurice unexpectedly okay with it? Like, it feels like character development that I don't know why it exists.
Lilligen is pointing us towards the Bowl of the Winds scene.
Was Maurice part of that? Maurice wasn't part of that.
Because Maurice is an Aes Sedai.
Sea folk lady?
Yeah, Maurice is new.
Elza's the one that's asking.
We really only got Maurice in Winter's Heart at like the last book when she bonds Narishma. She's sort of new in that scene.
Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe it's just a testament to how difficult it is to drive Saidin, and Maurice is happy to give up that struggle and hand it off to someone who's eager to try it. Maybe it's just that. It just seems like RJ is drawing a lot of attention to it, and I'm like, is it a nothing burger or not?
I've got nothing. I assume it's just because she's, an Aes Sedai, and Elsa's just former slave. So why would you give the ability? No?
They're both Aes Sedai. Elsa is an Aes Sedai.
Oh, sorry. I always mix her up with Olivia.
Yeah. Who we were just talking about, in fairness. But this is two Aes Sedai having a little interaction that I feel like RJ's trying to say something, and I don't see what it is, unless maybe it's just that, oh wow, Saidin's really difficult.
So I feel like we're at the end of this, but I still want to solve this puzzle. Maybe it's just relative power levels?
But Elza expects to have to plead, and then she gets an unexpected response. Why does she want to do that? Why does she make a request she thinks will be denied, and then why is it not denied? Does this matter, or am I just stretching this out for the sake of making the episode longer? Yeah,
I think it might be a bit of a stretch. I think honestly, it's just like of course, everybody wants to meld the flows because that's what you do in a circle. You want to be the person in charge, and she has control. So Elsa really shouldn't ask because, and I'm guessing whatever hierarchy they're on in terms of relative power in the White Tower, the reason that Marasi has control of the flows is that she is higher ranked, and just from whatever reason, whatever rank she's at. They're both green Aja, so there's a certain amount of being linked.
Okay, so then why does Elza want to do it if she's low ranked? You're not supposed to want things above your rank.
Because she's a dark friend.
But then she doesn't do anything except kick ass.
Protect Rand, right? That's what she wants to do, is protect Rand as best she can. And so you want something done right, do it yourself? Exactly.
Is maybe just kind of where she's at?
Yeah.
I could buy that. That she can't trust anyone to be as good at that as her, so she's going to reach for that.
Right.
Okay.
And Lila Jen's pointing out, it basically says Elza was not particularly strong in the One Power, apparently, according to the wiki. In fact, she was so conscious of her strength that other Aes Sedai thought she thought too much about her place in the hierarchy. So this is probably why she thought she shouldn't ask, is because she is lower ranked, but because of the compulsion to protect Rand and support him, she feels like she needs to be in control because she can do the best job, even though technically she's of a lower rank than the person melding the flows. That's why she shouldn't ask. I don't know why Maurice gave it to her.
I think it's just because Saidin's a lot. It's a weak reason, but I think I don't know anything about Maurice that would make me think that there's anything more other than, oh, yeah, this is heavy. You can take it. That's fine. Huh. All right. Well, that was less thrilling than it could have been, but welcome to the circus.
Right. Welcome to the circus. Yeah. I'm trying to find anything on Maurice that gives me any background on her. She really just appears to just appear in this group she's just one of the Aes Sedai that's in this group that bonds a bunch of Ashaman as warders, and that's the first time we see her. And Codswain trusts her more than any other Aes Sedai for some reason. We find that out in Winter's Heart. But yeah, I think she's just one of Codswain's lackeys for all intents and purposes. And she's in a lot of groups of Aes Sedai, but she doesn't do a lot on her own, as far as I can tell.
So yeah, maybe she's just chiller than Elza was expecting.
That's my best guess.
people that are chiller than you expect.
They're usually better people than if they're willing to just hand over power. They usually make some good folks.
Yeah, people who don't demand that they have power should generally be given as much power as you can make them accept. Mm-hmm. Because everyone who wants power should be kept as far away from it as possible. So
that's why you should never give me any power, because I don't want it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, don't listen to anyone who says that either.
I do not. No, please do not give me that power. No, just set it down over there on the table. It's fine. It's fine. I might sample it later, but yes.
You don't have to take it home with you. You can leave it.
No, you can leave it. It's fine. It's fine. I'll make sure it gets disposed of in all the right places. It's pretty funny. But no, so that was that was a slog. I won't say anything. That was a recap. We've hit other chapters like that, though, in other books. Chapter 2, 3, 4, sometimes. It's just a recap chapter. You're hanging out with one of the characters that you know and love, and they're going, yep, so this is what I've been up to. Yeah, that person was doing that person was doing that, and that person was doing that. And, I kind of remember what Matt was doing, and I kind of remember what Perrin was doing, and, gee, I wonder what Nynaeve is up to. I bet she's great, and Moraine's healthy. Like, you get these list of characters, and it feels very recappy sometimes.
Regardless, we slogged on through, and we're getting through the recap, so hopefully next week has a little bit more pizzazz to keep us excited.
And I tell you what, I'm listening to Knife of Dreams right now, and God, that's such a good book. I cannot wait to get there.
Yeah, we're going to start getting into our double headers to speed up this timeline pretty soon here. Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit harder with the double headers just because we have the Winter's Heart stuff. So it almost feels like 4 chapters. Almost, but not quite. I think we'll be able to push through it. Yeah,
it's all in the name of getting to Knife of Dreams.
Yep.
It's my only goal in life now is to get to Knife of Dreams.
We will survive. It's like one of those things where I know I will live because my Min has promised me that I will get to Knife of Dreams.
You're right.
And I know me and my babies will be fine until Knife of Dreams, at least.
Yes. Precisely.
All right. So, we should plan out all those double headers if we haven't already.
We have. At least for the first half of the book.
Okay. Do we want to? Can we find any more?
We can probably find some. I honestly we probably could have done this as a double header, but whatever.
Well, I was wondering, any life updates, anything like that to talk about for the end section?
Any life updates? Creative angst. Just put it under the bin of creative angst and leave it there.
Yeah, well, so What Idol is upcoming for us, depending on when you're listening to this, but we have an entry. And at this point, I have decided to attempt a live action version. We'll see if that comes out, if we revert back to a picture with text scrolling over it. But Aradia's pretty much finished up the audio.
Yeah.
So, we have a song.
Lilijan and I and the karaoke track of YouTube have managed to make an entry. And Seth is going to do an 11th hour video one way or another. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you create because I didn't get any input from you on making the song. So this is a very interestingly segmented creative handoff we've got going here.
This is definitely a divide and conquer approach to okay, you've created the lyrics and the song, and now I have to take what you've given me and try and make a video to that also adds some interesting content while not changing or overwhelming the song in any way. So
At the last minute.
Yeah. Well, do we work any other way? Let's be honest.
No, and now they've given us a deadline extension, so that's bad because now we have more time.
Well, to be honest, that was the only way we were going to be able to do a live action video is with the
extension. Right, because you needed to get the costumes.
Yeah, props, costumes, and stuff like that. And so There's simply
So
no way
thank
that's
you,
going on.
Lauren.
Yep. Thank you. For
I'm
pushing
sure
that back a
Lauren is
little
the
bit.
one arguing for that because he seems like the nicest of all the people organizing it.
I feel like it's almost needed to establish a deadline so that everybody actually like has something, and then they say, okay, but you can actually work on it a little bit longer, and then they get a better product.
Having organized an event deadline that had a built-in surprise, we extended the deadline one time already, that does actually seem very likely that they always meant for the real deadline to be the 11th, and then they just told us the 3rd to hasten everyone's footsteps. That seems actually very, they know us. This is year 3. They know who we are as a community.
Yeah, they do. And they consistently get amazing results out of us every time. So as always, I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, which I guess we might need to reschedule things.
Oh, a
maybe.
recording? Yeah.
We might have to, because I don't want to compete with them, and I will be spending all of my spoons on screaming in chat.
Sure. If we have to cancel or push back a recording or even just skip an episode because, hey, guys, put your attention on Watt idle and ignore us for a week or 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I have to double check things because they just made that post about a date. So scheduling. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just continuing to try to make things happen behind the scenes, and I don't feel like digging myself into a hole by talking about it in detail. Just know that I am creatively angsting behind the scenes.
I bought some furniture from a used furniture store. I'm slowly moving into my new apartment and loving it. So it's amazing how much less cluttered it looks when you have places to put things, even though it's more furniture in the house.
Yeah, furniture makes a big difference. And thrift furniture is fun because it all has a story.
So, and we just got pretty lucky at a thrift store and ended up renting a U-Haul and bringing back, 3 or 4 big pieces, moving them in. So it was, long story short, my shoulders hurt. And I'm glad that this is just talking and I'm not lifting anything for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's just the world is so on fire. I just don't even have things to say.
Yeah, I will admit
the escapism is really, really, it's escapism or panic attack. Like, guys, the world's fucked and we're not talking about it because we're all here to not.
I've leaned into the escapism pretty hard lately because I'm feeling pretty powerless on the broader scale, which, I won't last forever, but for right now.
Yeah.
It's like, put my head down.
Everyone take care of yourselves, and
we all need breaks.
Take care of yourselves.
Yeah. We all need breaks from him.
We're here to chill out and talk about this goddamn circus. So, shall we go deal with this goddamn circus?
God, this episode's going to be a circus.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with Elza or do you want to start with the circus?
I want to start with the circus.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?